Commander Raxx stood at the observation deck of Research Station Zenith 7, his forearms clasped behind his back as he watched the blue-green marble called Earth through their quantum imaging array. Beside him, Chief Researcher Len nervously shuffled her data tablets, her scales shifting from deep purple to an anxious green. Fascinating, isn't it? Raxx mused, his mandibles clicking in amusement. These humans. They still think they're alone in the galaxy. Look at them, burning fossil fuels, fighting their tiny wars, completely unaware that we're watching their every move. Commander Len ventured, her voice trembling slightly. The latest intelligence reports suggest some anomalies in their behavior patterns. Raxx turned one of his 4 eyes toward her, while keeping the other 3 fixed on the planet below. Do tell. Well, sir, she continued, pulling up a holographic display. Their technological progression is unusual. They went from primitive flight to lunar landing in less than 70 Earth years. That's unprecedented in any species we've studied. Raxx waved a dismissive hand. A random statistical outlier. Nothing more. Their current technology level is exactly where it should be for a primitive species barely able to reach their own orbital space, still fighting over resources, no unified planetary government. Perfect candidates for our research program. The research station's central hub hummed with activity as junior scientists scurried about, their various appendages carrying equipment and data cores. The overhead lights pulsed in the soothing ultraviolet spectrum preferred by most of the crew, casting everything in a gentle purple glow. Security Chief Raxx called out to a hulking figure lurking in the shadows. Your assessment of their defensive capabilities. Raxx stepped forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. Negligible, Commander. Their most advanced weapons systems can't detect our cloaking technology. Their military responses are predictable and limited to conventional firearms and primitive missiles. Excellent. Raxx clicked his mandibles together in what passed for a smile among his species. Then I believe it's time to proceed with Phase 1 of our specimen collection program. Len's scales flickered rapidly between green and blue. Sir, are you certain? The Galactic Council's directives regarding interference with pre-contact species are quite clear. The Galactic Council, Raxx interrupted, is interested in results. And what better way to study a species than through their young? Their educational methods, their developmental patterns, their response to stress. He chuckled, a sound like marbles in a garbage disposal. Besides, these humans are so primitive, they'll probably blame it all on weather balloons or swamp gas. On the massive view screen, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, blissfully unaware of the plans being made above. Junior researcher Pax rushed into the room, nearly tripping over his own tentacles in excitement. Commander, we've located the perfect target, Pax exclaimed. A gathering of young humans in an isolated location they call a summer camp, minimal adult supervision, poor communications infrastructure, and far from major population centers. Raxx's mandibles spread in a predatory grin. Well then, my dear colleagues, I believe it's time to make scientific history. Prepare the collection vessels, and remember this is a simple specimen gathering mission. What could possibly go wrong? The entire command crew burst into chittering laughter, their various appendages wiggling in amusement. High above Earth, Research Station Zenith 7 began to power up its collection systems, its crew completely unaware they were about to make the biggest mistake in the history of galactic research. Operation Specimen, as the crew had so cleverly named it, began on what humans called a Tuesday night. Commander Raxx sat in the tactical room, surrounded by holographic displays showing every angle of Camp Silverpine. The collection team, led by the overeager Captain Drell, had been drilling the operation for 3 standard cycles. Run through the plan one more time, Raxx ordered, enjoying the taste of victory before it had even begun. Captain Drell stepped forward, her bioluminescent spots glowing with barely contained excitement. We've identified 12 subjects, ages ranging from what humans call 8 to 12 years. 2 separate cabins, minimal electronic surveillance, and the nearest adult supervisors approximately 300 meters away in what they call the Counselor's Lodge. And the timing, Raxx prompted, examining the detailed 3D recreation of the camp. We strike at what humans call midnight. Their circadian rhythms will be at their lowest point, and their primitive monitoring devices are most susceptible to our electromagnetic interference at this time. Drell's tentacles wiggled with scientific precision as she spoke. The whole operation should take less than 4 minutes. Security Chief Raxx rumbled from his corner. My teams have mapped every possible escape route. We've got nullification fields ready for their communications devices, though I doubt their primitive technology could penetrate our jamming signals anyway. Sir Junior Researcher Pax burst into the room, nearly knocking over a hologram projector. The specimens are engaging in some sort of bizarre ritual. They're gathering around a primitive thermal reaction, consuming heated carbohydrate-protein combinations while sharing oral traditions. Raxx clicked in amusement. Ah yes, what they call a campfire and s'mores, how charmingly primitive. Perfect timing, they'll be even more fatigued after their little ceremony. As the Earth's moon reached its apex, 3 collection vessels descended silently through the atmosphere, their advanced cloaking systems making them invisible even to themselves. Captain Drell led the ground team, their environmental suits adjusted to mimic the local temperature. "This is almost too easy," Drell whispered into her comm unit as she watched the sleeping humans through their cabin windows. Initiating Phase 1. A subtle humming filled the air as the nullification fields activated. Every electronic device within a kilometer quietly shut down. The collection team moved with practiced precision, their hover stretchers gliding silently through the cabin walls thanks to their phase shift technology. First specimen secured, came the whispered reports. Second specimen secured. Third. One by one, the sleeping children were gently lifted onto the stretchers, their blankets and all, while remaining in deep slumber thanks to the targeted sleep maintenance field. Back on the Zenith 7, Commander Raxx watched the operation through multiple feeds. "Beautiful," he muttered. "Simply beautiful. Like taking candy from a... What's that human expression? Ah yes, like taking candy from a baby." "Collection complete," Captain Drell reported triumphantly. "All 12 specimens secured and en route to the vessels. No complications, no witnesses, no..." A small sound interrupted her report, a single twig snapping somewhere in the dark forest. The collection team froze, their adaptive camouflage rippling slightly. "Probably just local wildlife," Mavrak dismissed through the comm. "Complete the extraction." Within minutes, the collection vessels were ascending through the atmosphere, their precious cargo safely secured in specialized containment units. The nullification field dissipated, and Camp Silver Pine returned to its peaceful slumber, minus 12 of its young occupants. "Magnificent work," everyone Commander Raxx announced to his celebrating crew. "Now let's see what secrets these little humans can teach us about their species." The research station's engines hummed to life, preparing to move to a safer distance for their studies. None of them noticed the small, blinking light that had activated in Washington, D.C., or the encrypted signals that were already racing through supposedly primitive human communications networks. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came exactly 6 hours after the abduction. Junior Researcher Pax was monitoring Earth's electromagnetic spectrum, mostly amusing himself by listening to their primitive radio broadcasts, when he noticed something peculiar. Commander Raxx, Pax called out, his tentacles writhing in confusion. "You need to see this, sir." Raxx slithered over to Pax's station, still riding the high of their successful mission. "What is it now, Pax? Did you find another one of their amusing cat videos?" "No, sir. Look at these readings." Pax pointed with 3 tentacles at his display. "There's some kind of encoded burst transmission emanating from every major population center on Earth. But that's impossible. Their communication technology shouldn't be capable of this level of encryption." Commander Raxx's mandibles twitched. "Probably just some atmospheric interference. Run a diagnostic on your equipment." Sir Security Chief Mavrak's deep voice boomed from across the command center. "We're detecting multiple launches from various points across the planet's surface." "They're primitive rockets?" "Ha! Probably just some routine satellite deployments," Raxx dismissed, though one of his eyes swiveled nervously toward the main view screen. "No, Sir." Mavrak's cybernetic eye was spinning rapidly. "These are different. They're moving at speeds that shouldn't be possible with their known technology, and they're all heading directly toward us." Chief Researcher Len burst into the command center, her scales now a pale white of pure terror. "Commander, the human children, they all have some kind of quantum entangled devices embedded in their skeletal structure. We just detected them during the detailed scans." What Raxx roared, all 4 eyes now focused on the main display, where dozens of unknown craft were rapidly approaching their position. "That's impossible. They're supposed to be a primitive species. They still use internal combustion engines. For void's sake." Sir Pax screamed, "Something's attempting to breach our firewalls. The code. It's like nothing I've ever seen." The lights on the research station flickered as their systems came under attack. Through the observation window, Raxx could see the approaching vessels clearly now. They were sleek, black, and showed absolutely no energy signatures. They were just there, like holes cut in the fabric of space itself. Commander, a cold, calm voice echoed through their communication system, speaking perfect galactic standard. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You have exactly 1 minute to power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. If you attempt to flee with our children, we will be forced to demonstrate exactly how primitive we aren't." The command center erupted into chaos. Lens scales were cycling through colors so rapidly she looked like a malfunctioning light show. Mavrak was barking orders into his comm unit, mobilizing their security forces. Pax had fainted, his tentacles twitching spasmodically. "This is impossible," Raxx muttered, watching as more ships simply appeared out of nowhere around his station. Their technological level. We monitored them for decades. They were fighting with projectile weapons. They were arguing about climate change. They were being very, very careful about what we showed you. Admiral Chen's voice had an edge of dark amusement now. "You see, Commander, we've known about your little observation posts for quite some time. We just didn't care. Until you took our children." On the main screen, the approaching vessels began deploying what looked like organic technology hybrid weapon systems that should have been thousands of years beyond human capability. 30 seconds, Commander Chen announced. "Oh, and you might want to look at your long-range scanners. Those signatures you're detecting from the direction of Mars? That's just the first wave of our response fleet. We tried to keep them back, but well, you took children from Montana. Those parents are particularly aggressive." Commander Raxx looked at his crew, at his supposedly superior technology, and at the nightmare unfolding around his research station. For the first time in his scientific career, he realized that he hadn't been the observer in this experiment, he'd been the lab rat. "Oh," he whispered, his mandibles drooping in defeat. "What have we done?" Commander Raxx had exactly 15 seconds to make a decision that would go down in galactic history as either the second or third worst choice ever made, the first being the choice to abduct human children in the first place. "Emergency quantum jump," he screeched, his mandibles clicking frantically. "Get us out of here. Now." The research station's emergency drive engaged with a reality-bending shriek, tearing a hole in space-time, just as the first wave of human vessels reached their position. Raxx felt a moment of relief as the familiar sensation of quantum displacement washed over him. Then he heard Captain Drell laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that suggested someone had just seen their own grave. "Oh, Commander," she wheezed, pointing at the tactical display. They're following us. Through our quantum wake. That's supposed to be impossible." The massive view screen showed what looked like ripples in space itself, as the human vessels, now numbering in the hundreds, surfed through the very quantum wake their emergency jump had created. They moved with impossible grace, like predators who had finally caught the scent of their prey. "How?" Raxx demanded, all four eyes bulging. "How?" Their species was supposed to be arguing about whether the world was round just a few centuries ago. Sir Security Chief Mavrak's voice had lost its usual confident boom, now barely a whisper. "New contacts emerging. Everywhere. They're coming out of hidden bases throughout the entire system. Mercury has a battle station inside it. Venus is. Void take me. Venus is opening up like a mechanical flower. Mars is. Mars is." Angry Admiral Chen's voice cut through their comms again, sounding almost apologetic. "You really shouldn't have taken those kids from Montana. The Martian Colonial Defense Force is mostly populated by their relatives. Really big on family, those Montanans." The first shot of the battle, if you could call it a battle, came from what they had thought was a small asteroid. It passed through their supposedly impenetrable shields like they weren't even there, precisely severing their primary power coupling. "Fascinating design," a new voice commented on their comms. "Dr. Williams, head of xenotechnology at Luna Base. Hope you don't mind if we take some scans while we dismantle your ship. For science, you understand." Raxx watched in horror as his mighty research vessel was systematically picked apart by weapons that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. Each shot was precise, deliberate, and worst of all, carefully designed to disable rather than destroy. "They want us alive," he realized with growing dread. "They want us to see this, to remember this." Commander Pax had regained consciousness only to lose control of his skin pigmentation entirely. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, not just to us, to everyone." The tactical display shifted, showing thousands of alien vessels that had been hiding just at the edge of sensor range. Representatives from every major galactic power watching, observing, learning. A new transmission cut through everything else. "This is General Sarah Mama Bear Chen of the Earth Defense Force. To all observing nations. Let this serve as humanity's formal introduction to the galactic community, and let our response to the abduction of our children serve as humanity's first diplomatic message. One of the human vessels pulled alongside the now crippled research station. Through the observation window, Raxx could see it was barely a quarter the size of his ship, yet it radiated a kind of power that made his exoskeleton want to molt in terror. You know what the truly fascinating thing is? Commander Raxx, Admiral Chen's voice had taken on an almost conversational tone. We really were going to reveal ourselves peacefully next year. Had it all planned out, diplomatic channels ready, cultural exchange programs prepared, even had some lovely gift baskets made up, but then you just had to go and take our kids. The ship's emergency power flickered and died as another precise shot severed their secondary systems. In the darkness, Raxx could see the faces of human children being projected onto every screen, along with what appeared to be their familial connections. One of them, a small female, was apparently the niece of the head of something called Special Projects Division. "Oh dear," Dr. Williams's voice returned. "That one's my granddaughter. No wonder they let me bring the prototype quantum disassembler along. Permission to test it, Admiral." "Granted," came the reply. "Just remember we need them intact enough to return to their superiors." With a message. Commander Raxx, former head of xenological research, finally understood the true meaning of the human phrase "mama bear" as his ship's hull began to quantum shift out of reality itself. He had just enough time to draft a very short message to the Galactic Council. Addendum to first contact protocols: under no circumstances are human children to be touched. Ever. Trust me on this. 1.3 quantum jumps later, Commander Raxx was beginning to understand the human concept of hell. His research station, now operating on emergency power and held together by what Chief Engineer Raxx called hopes, prayers, and whatever deity might be listening, limped through the Proxima Centauri system. "They can't possibly follow us here," Raxx muttered, watching the sensor displays with all four eyes. "Not through 3 blind jumps, not through." Sir Len's voice cracked as she spoke, her scales now permanently stuck on Terror White. They're already here." What Raxx whirled around, his mandibles clicking in panic. "How?" "They're using our children's quantum signatures to track us," Captain Drell explained, her previous enthusiasm for specimen collection notably absent. "Every jump we make, they're there before we arrive. It's like they're hunting us." A transmission cut through their emergency channels. "This is trade vessel Korax of the Centaurian Merchant Fleet. Research Station Zenith 7, your request for assistance is denied. We've received the humans' broadcast. You're on your own. Try the Regellians," Raxx ordered desperately. "They hate humans. They'll help us." Security Chief Mavrak's cybernetic eye had started stress drinking power fluid. "Sir," the Regellian response just came in. "They say, and I quote, 'Are you out of your void-cursed minds? We're not getting involved in this. We've seen what they did to your shield generators. Also, did you know one of those kids has an aunt who designed that weapon? Good luck, though." The station shuddered as they prepared for another desperate jump. Through the viewport, Raxx could see the human vessels, now seemingly multiplying with each system they fled through. They weren't even firing anymore. Just following, waiting. Commander Pax whimpered from his station. "I've been analyzing their pursuit pattern. They're hurting us. Every jump we make, they've blocked off all routes except the ones they want us to take." Another transmission, this time from a Pleiadian science vessel. "Fascinating methodology the humans are employing. We're recording all of this for our xenosociology database. Entry title: Why You Don't Take Human Cubs, a Case Study in Galactic Darwin Awards." The station rocked violently as they emerged from another jump, right into the Barnard star system. And there, waiting for them, was the largest collection of ships Raxx had ever seen. How he whispered, his exoskeleton practically rattling with fear. "How are they doing this?" Sir Len managed to squeak out, "Remember those primitive satellites we detected around their gas giant Jupiter? The ones we dismissed as basic space junk?" "Yes." "They weren't satellites. They were quantum entanglement nodes. The humans, they've had a faster-than-light communication network spread throughout this entire sector for decades. Every move we make, every system we enter." "They're already there," Raxx finished, finally understanding. "They've been there all along." The ship's computer chirped helpfully. "Attention. Emergency power reserves at 12%. Next quantum jump will deplete remaining power." A new transmission from a passing Andromedan survey ship. "Hey, we're taking bets on how this ends. Anyone want in? Current odds heavily favor the humans, like heavily. Commander Raxx looked at his terrified crew, at the rapidly depleting power readings, and at the ever-growing fleet of human vessels that had been toying with them across 3-star systems. He thought about the children in their holding cells who had spent the entire chase calmly asking their captors if they knew what their parents did for a living. "Should we try for one more jump?" Sir Captain Drell asked, though her tentacles were already wrapping around themselves in resignation. Before Raxx could answer, Admiral Chen's voice returned to their comms. "That won't be necessary, Commander. You've reached your destination. Welcome to what we call a parent-teacher conference, though in this case, it's more of a kidnapper-parent conference. Don't worry. We've gathered all the parents." The last thing Raxx saw before their final power cell died was a massive holographic message being broadcast from the human ship's parenting lesson 1, "Don't touch our kids." The final confrontation began not with weapons fire, but with a parent-teacher conference from hell. Research Station Zenith 7's main hangar bay had been converted into what the humans called an auditorium, though to Commander Raxx it felt more like a tribunal. His entire crew sat nervously as human parents filled the room, each wearing expressions that made hungry void wolves look friendly. Now then, Admiral Chen began, standing at what humans called a podium, though it looked more like a judgment stand. "Let's discuss your semester project on xenobiology. I'm afraid you're getting an F. That's F for fundamentally terrible life choices." A man in a pristine lab coat stepped forward. Dr. Richards, head of quantum physics at Europa Station. Also his pleasant smile turned predatory. "Little Tommy's dad. You know the boy you kept in containment cell 3? The one you ran tests on?" Raxx's mandibles began clicking in terror as Dr. Richards continued. "Fascinating technology you have here." "Had, actually. We've already reverse-engineered most of it. Turns out your quantum drives are adorably primitive compared to what we've been hiding." Raxx managed to squeak out. But why? Why pretend to be primitive?" A woman in a military uniform, Sarah Mama Bear Chen herself, laughed. "Because, Commander, we learned something from Earth's history. When technologically advanced civilizations meet less advanced ones, it rarely ends well for the less advanced group, so we decided to be cautious. We've had faster-than-light travel for 50 years," another parent added, casually examining what looked like a handheld device but was probably capable of destroying small moons. "We discovered quantum entanglement while trying to make better phone networks for teenagers. We weaponized dark matter by accident while developing new coffee makers. But Raxx stuttered, "Your social media, your political arguments, your cat videos." "Oh, those are real," Admiral Chen chuckled. "Being advanced doesn't make us less human. We still love cat videos." Speaking of videos, she gestured, and a hologram appeared showing all 12 children, safe and already reunited with their families in another part of the station. "Here's what's going to happen," she continued, her voice taking on an edge that made Raxx want to molt right there. "You're going to go back to your superiors. You're going to explain exactly why taking human children was the worst mistake in your species' history, and you're going to help spread the word about humanity's first and only galactic law." What law?" Len asked, her scales trying to turn a color that didn't exist. A massive hologram appeared, showing the message being broadcast across the galaxy. "Humanity Galactic Law 1, don't mess with our kids. This includes but is not limited to abduction, experimentation, observation without parental consent, or attempting to give them sugar before bedtime." But most importantly, General Chen stepped forward. "You're going to tell everyone what happened here. Tell them about the fleet that appeared from nowhere. Tell them about the weapons we didn't even need to fire. Tell them about the technology we've been hiding. But most of all," she paused, looking each alien directly in their various eyes, "tell them what happens when someone threatens a human child. Tell them why we call protective parents mama bears and papa bears. Tell them why every spacefaring species you begged for help turned you down." Commander Raxx, who had started this mission believing he was studying a primitive species, finally understood. They hadn't been studying humanity. Humanity had been studying them, testing them, and they had failed spectacularly. "Oh, and one more thing," Admiral Chen added with a smile that could freeze suns. "Tommy's dad finished analyzing your quantum drive. He made some improvements. You'll find your trip home will be much faster. Consider it a parting gift along with the knowledge that we're watching. We're always watching. And if anyone ever thinks about touching our children again..." She didn't need to finish the threat. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just another species joining the galactic community. They were the monsters other species told stories about, the ones who hid their strength until someone threatened their young. And as Research Station Zenith 7 began its journey home, considerably humbler and significantly more terrified, Commander Raxx had only one thought: note to self: never, Ever mess with human cubs? 6 months after what became known as the Parental Advisory Incident, Commander Raxx stood before the Galactic Council, delivering what would become the most watched presentation in xenobiological history. And so he concluded, his mandibles still trembling at the memory, I present the following addendums to the Galactic Guidelines for Species Interaction, under the section now known as How Not to Get Your Entire Civilization Added to Humanity's Timeout Corner. The massive council chamber displayed the new regulations in glowing text. Galactic Regulation Update 7249.3 billion Human Child Protection Protocols. All human offspring are classified as absolutely do not touch, or we swear to whatever you consider holy. Minimum safe observation distance of human children another galaxy. Required permission levels for human child studies, all of them, plus written consent in triplicate from both parents, all grandparents, and at least one protective auntie. Recommended response to discovering human children: politely pretend you didn't. In conclusion, Raxx added, trying to keep his voice steady, our expedition did achieve its goal of learning about humanity. We learned that they've been playing primitive while building an empire. We learned their quantum technology makes ours look like children's toys, which is ironic, considering. The council chambers erupted in nervous laughter. But most importantly, he continued, we learned that humanity's greatest strength isn't their hidden technology or their vast fleet. It's the simple fact that every human adult becomes a terrifying force of nature when children are involved. They don't call them mama bears and papa bears because they're cute and cuddly. A junior council member raised an appendage. But surely now that they've revealed themselves. Oh yes. Raxx clicked sarcastically, they've revealed themselves. And every day we discover they're hiding something even more terrifying. Just last week, they casually mentioned they solved cold fusion while trying to make a better ice cream maker. They accidentally discovered teleportation while attempting to find a faster way to deliver pizza. He looked around the chamber, at representatives from 1,000 worlds, all hanging on his every word. But you know what the most ironic part is? We actually did them a favor. They were planning some grand diplomatic entrance into galactic society. Instead, we gave them the perfect opportunity to show the galaxy exactly why you don't mess with human cubs. As Raxx finished his presentation, a message appeared on everyone's data screens. It was from Earth's new galactic embassy, consisting of a single image, a human parent grizzly bear standing protectively over its cub, with the caption, "Don't make us come out there again." The message was clear. Humanity had joined the galactic community not with handshakes and diplomatic ceremonies, but with a simple, terrifying demonstration of what happens when someone threatens their children. And somewhere on Earth, 12 kids had the coolest "what I did this summer" story ever.